Hello, I'm Leah McGowan Hare, and thank you for joining us for Summer 17 Developer Preview Live. I'm joined by a great panel of experts that will introduce themselves shortly, but we're going to be focusing on some of the key developer features for Summer 17. Now, during this presentation, we would love to hear from you, so please engage with us on Twitter by using the hashtag Salesforce Live, and also post where you're tweeting from. Kind of interested in who's out there and where we're getting these tweets from. We're going to try to answer as many questions as possible live. But for those that we don't get to, we'll follow up with after the broadcast. Now, this entire session will be recorded and available for download on developer.salesforce.com. Now, in this broadcast, we're going to be focusing on platform features that are of particular interest if you're an admin or developer. Bottom line is there will be code, so you've been warned. If you're interested in new features from Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, App Cloud, and Community Cloud, please join us next week for our webcast with the product managers. Now, you know this would not be a Salesforce presentation without our forward-looking statement. Please know we may speak of forward-facing features that are in beta or in pilot. Make all of your purchasing, implementation, and investment decisions based on what we currently have offered today, which is pretty awesome. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and meet our experts.
Hi, I'm Kamyar Sarajwar, and I'm a product manager on Lightning Platform, and here to tell you all about the great things that our team has been working on this past release.
And I'm Greg Ruiz. I'm a Principal Developer Evangelist here at Salesforce. And I'm focused on Lightning components and code, a lot of code.
My name is Emily Rose. I'm also a Developer Evangelist here at Salesforce, and I'll be talking to you about the Apex Metadata API.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jay Hurst. I'm a product manager with Salesforce, and I will be discussing platform events, a new feature in Summer 17.
Awesome. Cam, why don't you kick us off?
Great. So once again, I'm Kamyar, here to talk about the great features that Lightning Platform has been working on. And Greg and I will co-present and demo the features that hopefully you all are looking forward to. So one of the first things that we want to highlight is Lightning security. Obviously, with Lightning, we've made it really easy and brought new ways to customize our UI and the capabilities that we're making available to the developers and admins. But with that comes some security concerns that we have to address, which is why we have locker service. So we just want to highlight locker service and the fact that in this release, we're going to enable locker service with version 40. And Greg will show you what that means and how to deal with it, as well as the fact that the content security policy is available through a critical update until next October 18, and after that, it's going to be enforced. So we just want to highlight that about locker service and security. But now let's get to the fun stuff. So one of the reasons that everybody loves building with Lightning is the way we make it such that you don't have to write a lot of code. It's a low-code framework. And the basis of that are the base components, which make it super easy for you to build Lightning components. And we'll show you those. One of those base components is the Lightning data service. It's awesome.
It is.
One reason is that it's my product, but also the reason is awesome is because it's going to make it really, really easy for everybody who's building Lightning components to work with record data.
Yes.
And by that, we mean you don't need to write Apex controllers if you don't have to, because now you can use Lightning data service and force record data to basically access record data in your Lightning component.
That is pretty exciting.
So without further ado, let's cut over to Greg and have him demo this.
Let's see it.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to start out here in our Dreamhouse application, which is, if you have not seen this before, my team, we built a reference application for showing all the cool features of Lightning, and there's some new stuff here in Summer 17. And if you want to look more in depth at this, you can go to dreamhouseapp.io and actually install that into your own developer org and play with it.
Pretty cool app.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's an even cooler component that's not exactly it's in Summer 17, but I've actually enhanced it a little bit more here for our purpose right today. And that's these two components that we see over here on the right-hand side. Now, these two components, they are actually, I say two components, it's actually only one component. Because what I've done is I've leveraged design parameters so that my admin, when they were adding this component to the page, they were able to specify whether they were wanting to look at similar properties by price or similar properties by bedroom.
Okay.
Now, the component is actually looking at the main record data. So it's actually watching that record data and did the search based on the parameters of that data. So for example, if I were to go in here and lower the price, let's knock this down to, I don't know, we'll take it down to 815,000. And as soon as I save this, then you can see that we had a new search performed because these components actually heard the change. Now, how did that happen? Well, let's head over here into our developer console to take a look at the code. Now, Kamyar mentioned that we are enforcing locker service, and we realize that that is going to be a concern for some people. So here in the bundle version settings, this is where you can go in and set your API version. And as Kamyar mentioned, it is as of API version 40.
Right.
So Leah, if you have some components out there that you are concerned about, you don't want them enforcing locker service, you can simply go and set that back to API version 39, for example.
Awesome.
Right?
Awesome.
Okay, so now let's talk about force record data, and you can actually see force record data right here. This is all it is to implement force record data, just really a single line of code with a few attributes. Now, the first attribute, of course, is our Aura ID so that we can talk to this force record data. And then you'll notice that we have a record ID. And this record ID is being picked up directly from the component using the force has record ID interface. And now, once it picks that up, then it actually is going to store that value into its target record location. In this case, I've given it an attribute of property. Now, here's where the really cool stuff happens. In that record updated. The record updated attribute lets me specify a function in my controller that I want to execute when I hear any part of that record update.
So that's
now,
the attributes,
I can even specify how much of the record I want to watch. For example, here I have layout type. I've set it to full, but we also do have the option of having compact or even specific fields.
Right.
So that's how the component actually knew what was going on the page. But it gets even better. So let's go back over here to the application again, and you'll notice that I've got a little edit icon over here, and I can actually go in and edit one of the remote records, as I like to call it. I'm not even looking at this record page, and yet I've got an edit dialog. Let's go ahead and just change that to maybe 2 bathrooms. We had an error when we entered that into the database, and I'll go ahead and save that. And we'll notice that not only did it update here in this version of my component, it also updated down here, because once again, heading back into some more code, I've actually used a child component called similar property. And each one of these similar properties also has its own force record data. So now those two components on the page are actually watching the same record. So they're watching, as you can see here, using another force record data, but they're only watching specific fields, just the ones that I was showing. So I have those fields listed out, right? So now that's even cooler, because now they're watching the same record. So when that update happens, we saved that back to Salesforce.
And
It automatically notified all the other components on the page. Now, Leah, here's what's really cool.
Because this is getting really cool.
Right. If you have 37 instances of that record on the page, it's only called once.
So,
And all 37 are notified.
and it's almost like
of
they're
the
having a
change.
conversation with themselves, but they're using the same information. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, there's some more cool stuff that I'm going to show you, but I'm not going to do that just yet, because I think Kamyar has a few more things to share.
All right.
It was but Lightning Data Service is like the standard controller to a Visual Force page.
Very much so.
Okay.
And it's on its way to becoming that.
Okay.
And
Baby
one of the reasons yeah, exactly. And one of the reasons that we are able to do handle the communications amongst all the components. Looking at this slide is because Lightning Data Service is basically this caching layer in Lightning that handles all the incoming requests for CRUD on data. So, and it can notify all the different components
And
when
it's only one call.
Right.
one component touches it, everybody gets the update. So your screen all refreshes no matter what's going on.
Shout out
Great,
to the
great stuff.
developers on that one.
Exactly, yeah, they're awesome.
They are.
Okay, so let's recap some of the things that we saw. So these are the new base components that are going to be available with Summer 17. And I'm not going to go through the whole list. There they are, but you can look at our release documentation and look forward to working with them with the summer release. There's a couple of things to note about Lightning Data Service. It is going to be beta in Summer 17. Custom objects are fully supported, but a subset of standard objects are supported, which is one of the reasons it's beta. And for a full list, you can, again, look at our online documentation so that you know what's available through Lightning Data Service and what isn't yet. The other thing to note is that we originally introduced Lightning Data Service as Force Record Preview when it was only in DE orgs as a developer preview. And that is being retired, so it won't work anymore with Summer 17. So if you have components out there that are using that, you need to update them so that they say Force Record
So just
Data.
refactor that code to use that new component.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, now let's talk about another cool feature. So this is one of the features that a lot of our customers have been asking for. Obviously, everybody loves to build Lightning components and use them in Lightning. So one of the major asks by our customers has been, when can we override standard buttons with Lightning components? So a lot of our customers do this with Visualforce pages, where you can override the standard buttons like new and edit, etc. With a Visualforce page. Now we're making it such that you can do so using Lightning components.
Yes.
And to take a look at how that works, let's switch back to Greg for another awesome demo.
I know he's got some awesome picks.
That's right. That's right. So, Kamyar, I had an idea. I was actually liking that edit record dialog that I had created here as a part of my component. And I was thinking, when I go to edit a property record, normally, I get the standard property record edit dialog, and there's a lot of fields for me to fill out and things. I was thinking, that might be a place where, hey, maybe if I hit that edit button, I just want that smaller dialog.
Right? Yeah.
So I'm going to leverage that very same component, that similar, edit record component. And we're going to override our edit button, our standard edit button. Now,
Write the component once, use it in a lot of places.
Exactly
Yes.
right. Reusability. So I'm going to go over here to my setup, and I'm going to switch over into my object manager, which is another great new feature in Summer 17. You'll notice that it's broken out into its own tab, so I can get to it quickly. And I'm going to scroll on down here to my property object. So we'll click on the property object, and then we're going to go into our buttons, links, and actions. And we can see that currently we're just using our standard Salesforce page here for all of these actions. So I'm going to go and choose my edit button, and I'm going to say, let's edit the edit button. And we're going to do that and ask now here to override. We're going to override, as you pointed out, Kamyar, there's that Visualforce page override that I'm sure we're all familiar with, but now here's the brand new Lightning component bundle selector, and I can say, okay, which one of my components would I like to use? Now you'll notice I have two listed here, one of which is simple property. And the reason that those two are showing up and not all my other components is because there is actually an interface that I'm implementing, and I'll point that out here in just a moment. So we'll go ahead and save that. Now, as soon as I do so, that means that I can head back over here into my page, and we'll go ahead and do a quick refresh so it now can pick up that new edit button. And as soon as I click the edit button, we see, sure enough, there's our dialog. Now, a couple of things I didn't point out previously. That button, the stateful button that you mentioned, Kamyar, there it is. So, although I have not wired it up, obviously, here, but there it is for clicking to say what would happen if I wanted to follow a record, for example.
And that button just changes
that
to
just
show that
changes
you have followed
state.
once
Exactly
you click it.
right.
Yep.
But what we're interested in doing is just editing our record. Now, the other thing that you might notice here, and just a point to be made, is when we are overriding with a Lightning component, as we're doing today, please note that we are taking up the full page screen, just like we did with Visual Force's way.
Right.
Now, if you're a good developer, you may be able to hide that fact like I've done, making it look like a modal dialogue here.
Right.
But just know that. Now, we'll go ahead and just change this. We'll change it back to 4 baths here. Go ahead and save that record. And sure enough, back we go. And of course, we see that our record has updated. It has saved properly. Now, we can go one step further because I've actually decided I liked it so much that not only did I want to override my edit button, I'm going to override my new button as well. But this time, again, I'm going to use the exact same component. Right, because now if I choose this and I save, and we go back over to our page again a refresh so it knows that I've now overridden the button. When we go to our properties list and I click on my new button, once again, we're going to get that new record dialog.
Wow, and there it is. There's the component.
But notice something. Notice something. It now says new record, and all the fields are now blank because we're actually intelligently detecting whether or not this was a new record or an existing record. Now, I'll just go ahead and just make this be 123 Main Street, for example. We'll say it has 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. You can have it for $500,000, and it is currently available. And we'll go ahead and save. And sure enough, we've saved, we have a new record, it's 123 Main Street. Now, the way that we did that was through this simple property component. All I did was add in the Lightning Action Override right here, the very first interface that we see. That's all that I need to do to make that appear in my list of available components. Now, you'll notice again that we have a force record data. So I'm leveraging force record data here to help me. Now, not only that, in my controller, I'm doing a little bit of magic because in my controller, when we initialize the component, we're actually asking whether or not a record ID is present. So when I clicked on the edit button, it knew there was a record ID. But when I didn't click, or when I clicked on the new button, it knew there wasn't a record ID. So we went ahead and used force record data to create a new record right there for me. And then a little bit later, we just simply called the save record method of force record data to save what we had entered into the dialog.
And the fact that you're using the same component for new or edit, once again, reusability, developing faster, using Lightning components.
Absolutely, that's
Pretty
what
awesome.
it's all
If I was
about.
closer, I'd give you a high five. I'd give you a virtual one.
Virtual high five.
Yep. All right, so cutting back to the slides, just one thing to note about action overrides, and for those of you who love our console experience, please note that as of now, action overrides are not supported in Lightning Console. So feel free to use them in Lightning Desktop, like Greg just showed you, and make a note of the exception. So the next feature we want to talk to you about is the User Interface API. This is another feature that I'm the product manager for and my team built. A great feature. We introduced it originally as Lightning API for those of you who may be familiar with it. It's in pilot and developer preview. And the reason that we like it so much is because it is actually the API that powers the user experience behind Salesforce One and Lightning experience. And so by making this API public, we're giving you all the great things that our developers have built so that you can also use them when you build Lightning components or really any user interface, since these will be available as REST API. And they are the API that power force record data, so everything will be consistent, the documentation will be consistent, and it's a great way to build UI.
That's awesome.
So the benefits of user interface API is that they're fast because we cache metadata, so that we help cut down on the number of API calls. We have a lot of features that are built for supporting development for mobile, such as being able to do bulk payloads and smaller payloads if you're just refreshing data, as opposed to getting giant responses back. And as I said before, it's the same API that we use for Lightning. So what's good for us is good for our customers, and we want to share. So here is here are the endpoints that we currently support. As you can see, we support all the records with their layouts, the metadata for the object, the metadata for the layouts, as well as things like pick lists. I'm really a fan of our pick list API. It's really, really nice to use. So definitely check it out. The API is great because we support form factors. So the same API you can use with a param to switch between a small or medium or large form factor. If you're building on Heroku and you want to make it a responsive page, you can do that. You can also obviously use it on force.com. And check it out. It's covered on developer.salesforce.com. All of our documentation is up there. And let us know what you think. So as I said, in Summer 17, it's developer preview. So it's available in all of the orgs. But I also am running a closed pilot for customers who may want to turn this on in their sandbox and start giving us feedback and building apps. Customers and obviously are great partners. So with that, let's talk about another great feature that we're delivering in
Render
Summer
as.
17.
Render as. Render as.
So we're doing advanced PDF. A lot of you are familiar with our current functionality. This is basically, modernizing the support.
Forget about you Visual Force developers out there.
Yeah, exactly, right? We love them all. We love all of our developers.
Yes.
So this is coming as well. It's going to be in pilot. So feel free to send us your feedback. Okay. I think that concludes it for me. I'll pass it on back to you.
I just have not necessarily a question. Darren was saying that he's using the override standard actions and had ran into some issues around record type, show record type. Any advice around using the override with record types? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, so today what happens is when you have different record types on a record, or an object, I should say, and your users have to first pick them before they can create a new record or edit a record. We're still working on making that transition smoother in Lightning between handling of the record type picker and the action Lightning component override that you've set. So stay tuned for that.
All right, so
with
Darren,
a future
stay
release.
tuned. It's definitely being heard. Well, I think that's great. I think we're good. Thank you. Emily, why don't we jump over to you because we got some Apex.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we'll be talking with you about the Apex Metadata API. And I imagine a lot of you watching are probably already familiar with the Metadata API. But we've got some exciting things to discuss. So what is Apex Metadata API? Well, it's the ability for you to write post-install scripts, self-configuring apps, and even write your own custom kind of setup UIs right from within Apex and having access to the Metadata API required to do that. So before we dig into all the details, I want to tell a little bit of the story of how we got to this point and why we're doing this now. This is a quote from Aaron, the senior director, product manager on this project, and he's quoted as saying, ISV's desire to build custom setup UIs for their apps drives nearly half of the demand for the Apex Metadata API. Okay. So that's pretty huge. And going back, kind of looking at the history, and Andrew Fawcett, also known as Andy in the Cloud, very popular member of our community.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome blog. Everyone,
shout out to Andy.
Yes.
What's up, Andy?
So Andy is obviously a very dearly loved member of the community. He posted this on Idea Exchange about 3 years ago, just proposing the ability to update metadata from Apex, and gave a pretty compelling, kind of example use case. There's a little bit of the history. We do also want to just, you guys already kind of took care of it, but big thanks to Andy. Andy had also been maintaining on his own an open source kind of just client wrapper for Apex to call out to the metadata API, and that's how a lot of folks were doing things. But now, not so much necessary. So what can you do? You can retrieve and deploy metadata in Apex, which allows you to do things like manage org settings, configure installed apps and that kind of stuff in your packages. And we've kind of identified there's lots of use cases here, but 3 main ones that that make sense to kind of talk about is, again, custom app installs, kind of creating or updating metadata during or after an install, and we'll show you a little bit about that. Another really interesting thing is the ability to use this to have secure access to your metadata. So a lot of folks have expressed an interest in being able to update internal metadata types without having to expose them to the end user, to the admin. And then, kind of the end result, and I think one of the more, I think for me personally, compelling features is the ability to use this to create custom setup interfaces. So you're no longer restrained to just, requiring your admins to use the kind of standard tools that are available. And it really reduces the amount of load on the admin, right? And the amount of documentation that's required, the amount of professional services that goes into getting these things set up and successful. So real quick, just to kind of set your expectations around availability, this is something, so in the summer 17 release, we're going live with the ability to use this for custom metadata and for page layouts. Which is huge. I mean,
Right.
that's
especially the page. Yeah.
that's a lot, and especially going back to Andy's quote, that drives a lot of that motivation. Looking forward to spring 18, our hope is to start bringing things like pick list values, custom fields, that kind of stuff, and then going through the list and just kind of delivering, as frequently as possible. So again, forward-looking statement. We're going to do our best. So here's an example of how you might create. This is obviously a very simple post-install script. Doesn't actually do much, but just to give you a sense for how little code you're going to have to write at this point. You're implementing an install handler, and really the things to care about here are you're instantiating a new deploy metadata object, and then you're just calling deploy on it. Pretty simple. Here's how one might look if you were actually doing something. So you create the deploy container, which is how you reason about deployments of metadata, and then say you're going to add a new customer metadata object. Add that in there, maybe a new layout. Give it a callback, fire it off, and that's pretty much it. But what does a callback look like? Well, here's an example. This is a callback given that for create and update, completion of that is asynchronous. So what you would do here is simply instantiate your callback, and then once the callback is completed, obviously do whatever you want with it. Send an email to admins, whatever.
So there's some interfaces that they're going to need to implement to use some of these.
Correct.
Yeah.
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 And it sounds like it's a great tool for ISVs as well.
Absolutely.
To be able
Absolutely.
to build more
Yeah.
configurability in their
Yeah,
package.
and
more
that's
control,
what in the demo. Whoops, we got ahead of ourselves. In the demo that I want to show you now, we can switch over to here. That's essentially what I'm trying to kind of show off. And so obviously, I'm not with an ISV. I'm relatively new to Apex in general, but I took a stab at kind of imagining what would it look like if I could do some custom setup UI, after someone's installed a package. And so for here, I'm part of Team Trailhead. We like to keep things Trailhead themed, and so we came up with the idea of a park manager setup wizard. So say you've got a park. And
So I bought a park.
You bought a park, and you're gonna turn it into some.
Through the Dreamhouse app.
Right.
Through the Dreamhouse app.
Nice, there you go. Tying it all together. Thanks.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right. So through the miracle of demo apps, apparently, Greg
You're
has
the proud
purchased-
owner of a park.
He's a park ranger.
Perfect. Okay, so now you've got a park, you've installed this package, and you want to use it to help kind of manage your park's features. So we'll start out by saying, well, hey, do you allow camping, yes or no? Well, we'll start out just to kind of give you a sense for how this works. No camping, no RVs, it's just a park, right? Are there any bears in your park, Greg?
Cody always is around.
Yeah, Cody's always
But he's a
around.
friendly bear.
Cody's there. All right, so Cody is a black bear, I think? Or is he a brown bear?
Brown bear.
Brown
Brown
bear.
bear.
My bad. All right, so brown bear. All right. And then are you always open or no?
You know me. I'm a
Okay.
developer. I don't-
24/7.
No, developers' mornings don't start until 10 a.m. Come on.
All right, so 10 a.m. to
And then we usually knock off around 9 p.m.
okay, 9 p.m. 10 to 9. Oops. 10 to 9. Cool. So that was what, 3 steps, and then I'll hit done, and hey, look at that, setup complete. But what did that do? Well, here's the park features custom metadata type. Before I refresh it, there's clearly no metadata type there. But after I refresh it, you'll notice that there's now a park feature.
Oh, wow.
And if we take a look, we've noticed we have indeed indicated that there is brown bears present. And the hours are from 10 to 2100 hours.
That's cool.
So cool. All right. So that saved the admin quite a few steps in terms of manual data
That would
entry.
be much.
But then, going back to, again, let's just go crazy, right? Let's say we have camping, happy campers, RVs.
They're going to need power.
bears.
Right, they're going to need power. They probably want water. And everything but grizzly bears this time, I think. And let's open it wide up from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Done. Cool. And again, take a look at the park feature. And it's taking care of all of that for us.
That's pretty cool.
So I know that that's pretty basic demo, but again, I'm fairly new to this whole Apex metadata thing. I think it's super awesome. I'm personally excited about being able to use it for.
It is awesome in that you can access the metadata directly in the Apex code using classes.
Right,
That's huge.
Yeah.
Because having to call out to the metadata before, thank you, Andy. I mean, had it not been for Andy, it was just a lot more code.
Right, and what ended up happening with Andy's wrapper is a lot of people, you have to set up remote sites so that you can even call out.
And a lot more
back
setup,
in. And so that's an additional security risk, those types of things. So this is really, not only is this kind of moving that feature forward and kind of really adopting it, but it's also helping us when it comes to trust and security. So I think all in all, it's a huge win. And in terms of the code, to create this, it's very simple, right? We've got the park manager setup controller. We've got kind of our park config, just very simply, we just hacked this together, right? So we've got some Booleans, a couple integers for the hours, and really the only methods that we're using here, we're doing JavaScript remoting. We've got the create config method, which I don't even think I ended up using in this particular demo. We really much just stuck with the configure park manager. So we just gathered that custom metadata, and again, here's that going back to the container, like that kind of concept of the container. You're building that container, and then adding all of the metadata to it, and then firing off that callback, and then you're done.
Right.
So that's pretty much it. I'm not sure if we have any questions.
I don't see any out there yet, but I was questioning. I was looking at some of the notes that some of the classes that are released with this. You want to talk a little bit about some of those classes that you used, or?
Yeah. So for this, I think the only thing that we used is the custom metadata type. Obviously, as I mentioned, you can also use this for page layouts. So saving the admins the steps of having to go and add custom fields to their page layouts later. In the setup process manually.
That should save a lot of time.
A lot of time, especially in more complex applications.
Yep.
And then again, looking forward, I'm particularly excited to see this coming to things like custom objects and custom fields. That's going to make a huge difference.
Now, okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate on this because I have to. Right?
Uh-oh.
So let's say I have Apex code and I'm running this stuff in production, just creating these, new metadata objects in production.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good or bad?
I think I would have to refer you to a specialist.
I put it out there to my viewers, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. You're adding these new pages, you're adding new fields.
Yeah.
You're doing this in production.
Mm-hmm. Well, keep in mind that this is something that is intended. We want to get away from the potential of having a situation where you're writing code that writes code.
Right.
So there are some limitations. You should definitely check out the release notes. Things such as we don't currently have plans to support delete, to keep things a little bit safer. So there are definitely a lot of thought is going into making sure that this is safe to use. And I should also call out that using this does require you to have a trusted app and have gone through the process of making sure that your users understand what the implications are.
Right. Because we're giving. So we're giving a lot of power.
Yes.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Great responsibility.
So,
Indeed.
just be mindful
of
what we're doing. So don't
Yeah,
shoot
but
yourself
the
in
normal
foot.
process is to use this, obviously, in a sandbox,
Right,
test
and then
it out,
deploy in the proper
and then you deploy from
avenues.
your sandbox to production.
Yeah.
But there's somebody out there right
exactly.
now.
So we're glad You're helping us remind everybody of the way
Safety
to
first.
use
thank you.
sandboxes and
Right.
production orgs. Yep.
Trust.
And I think it's also really key to remember that this is a feature that's going to help our partners.
Right.
Where admins are doing this today, but instead of having that ability to build your custom UI and really streamline that flow that you can do with these new features, admins currently have to go into the edit screen, add these manually,
Right.
one at a
Yeah.
time, repeat, rinse, wash, and repeat over and over
Right.
again. And giving programmatic access to this allows me to, as a developer, extend this in a way where we
Build
can
faster,
really
right?
quickly roll these out, save admins
Right.
time, and
Documentation.
essentially, make this an easier, faster rollout
Right.
for our customers, our partners,
Right.
even us internally.
Right.
Absolutely.
And just though being mindful of still keeping best practices. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We did have one question, and I believed you already answered it, Emily. Can we delete metadata in production?
Yeah,
Or no.
That's
there's
not currently on the roadmap. I mean, as you may suspect, for very good reason. But obviously, there are other ways to kind of handle that. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Oh yeah, thank you.
So thank you, everybody. So far, a really engaging, exciting release coming up. I normally at this time would say, we saved the best for last, but I don't know that we can actually say that this time.
We did.
But it's all good.
And
It's good.
we're going to drop down to a slightly lower level here. What we've seen is some of the great advancements in how you can control the Salesforce UI, how we can kind of kick Lightning up to the level 11, if you will, how we can extend to our partners, to our ISV communities. And with platform events, which we're going to discuss, we're really going to kind of take it a little bit more to the integration level. What do we do for our SIs, partners, customers who are integrating against an enterprise development? What are we really doing to enable them? So we'll kind of start off with a little history. What are platform events? And go from there. And we're going to step a little bit out of the developer realm here just to set the stage. But as most people know, as we're developing inside of large enterprise situations, a lot goes into building these applications. It's really not as easy as the great Lightning UI makes it look. In the background, there's a lot of pieces that are moving. There's a lot of things that we have to do. And this doesn't just extend into Salesforce. When we look at what an enterprise architecture looks like, the geology of IT, if you will, is very deep and very broad. This extends to things like identity, where does your data live, what is that user experience, how do you keep everything secure? Mm-hmm. And one of the powers of Salesforce is we are able to abstract a lot of that away from the customer. That's kind of one of our big pitches is you don't have to own all of this, you trust us, we manage a lot of these pieces for you, and extend it where possible to allow you to leverage extra capabilities. But as we start to build these engaging experiences, as we chase that customer 360 pie in the sky, really we have to take into account that there's a web of complex things going on in the background. What we see traditionally in the Salesforce development realm and in other realms is having to build these point-to-point integrations. And this becomes very difficult, very hard to maintain over time. If you have two systems, it's great because you can control two systems very easily. But as you add a third, a fourth, or a fifth, you really start to get into this exponential management of point-to-point integration, this spaghetti type of code that becomes very difficult for any IT organization to track after a while. And what happens is you really start to slow down your business. It's great at first because you control it, you know exactly what's going on, but then you get your second request from your HR team, you get your third one for your sales team, your fifth one from another team, and next thing you know, you're spending all your time just maintaining, and that's not even talking about how you upgrade in advance.
Exactly.
That's just keeping the status quo, and it becomes very difficult to really get where we need. And what we've found out is that real time is where people are going. I need to get the information to my end users, to my customer base as fast as possible. Real time is, again, that pie in the sky. It's very difficult to get to. However, we can get continually closer to it to the point where those experiences become very, very engaging. Near real time.
Yeah.
And if you think of your favorite apps that you use every day, a lot of these have that type of information. They're giving you feedback of where your next taxi ride or driver pickup is going to be. They're telling you, when you're near a new restaurant that's opening up, things like that. And delivering that engaging experience is what really drives customer productivity, I think. As we start to look into how this fits in with Salesforce, we have a lot of different things that we want real-time for as well. Where we used to be a very, very nice contained core application in 2004 when I started, we're now expanding to the point where we have not just more than one cloud,
Right.
but we have multiple clouds that no longer live inside of our core ecosystem.
right.
So we also need to begin to build these techniques to pass information back and forth at real time, at the speed of what our customers need. And being able to do this with any business process becomes key. Like I said, that point-to-point integration, while it still has a very discrete purpose in the architecture, we really want to encourage a more loose coupling of systems together. And this is where messaging and eventing really comes into play. So being able to create workflows that no longer just act within a single system, but can blur the boundaries of where your edges are. I take action over in this part of my ecosystem and it charges something over here. Being able to communicate just record details between information so you can get to that ultimate single degree or single view of the customer and your customer MDM. How do I manage my data so I always know that when I look at this contact record, it's up to date from everywhere in my system? And also allowing Salesforce to kind of play into your existing messaging architecture. So where a lot of customers has set up very extensive and useful service buses in their architecture, how can Salesforce be a part of that as well so that when something happens in Salesforce, we can let you know. And when something you do is important to Salesforce, you can let us know in a way that doesn't cause these very discrete implementations. So with that, what we've introduced is this concept of a platform event. And a lot of what we'll see in the demo really drives it into the standard Salesforce programming model. Myself and the team really wanted to focus on keeping our customer experiences very, very similar. So we know all of our admins, all of our developers, they know what a custom object is. They know what external objects are. They can create this metadata and this rich set of information through the Salesforce setup like no one's business. So we want to make sure they can do the same thing with events. So as we're taking a look at these events, they're going to seem very similar, but there are some pretty syntactic differences behind them. Since events are going into a message stream, these are immutable. You can't change them. You can't update them. Once it happens, it's in the world, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it does mean that you're starting to shift what your design mentality is. You can no longer think of things as changeable. It's really, you look at what state they were in at this particular time, what's the next state they're in, et cetera, et cetera. But we do give you this ability to do in-order delivery. And we guarantee that the order of that stream of events is always going to be time-based and one after another. So you're not going to have to worry about reconstituting the order of things happening yourself. And at the end of the day, what we get is a pub sub model, which is we're not reinventing the wheel.
I was super excited when I told that to Jay. I was like, pub subs back.
but it gives you that familiar pattern.
Right.
It gives you that use case that a lot of our customers, a lot of the SIs out there are used to.
Right.
They're going to be able to take those events, subscribe to them, take action against them, and then republish a new event and plug both ways into the system.
Well, it's actually more than that, right, Jay? Because our own internal teams, like my teams, use your products.
Absolutely.
So, like I said before, what's good for us is good for our customers and our partners.
Absolutely.
So we actually use our own products as well, and our teams work
Drink
very
our own
closely
champagne.
together on that.
And I think you're going to see that as a bigger builder pattern with
Right.
Salesforce over the next, hopefully, decade, 2 decades, because what we've learned over the last 15 years is that we do things very well, and we want to make sure that because we know what works very well for Salesforce, that we extend that to our customers
that's
as
right.
well. So if we're using it, there's no reason why our customers shouldn't be able to take advantage of those exact things.
Yep.
And pieces of the Lightning API, different flows like the asset token flow, if you guys have used that in the last 6 months, features that we're coming out with around transaction security, around activity history flow, around our Einstein product, all of these features are seeded with this idea of data flowing in and out of Salesforce, or data flowing within the Salesforce boundaries. So
Exactly. Use the same framework.
exactly.
Yeah, this is good.
And at the end of the day, what we really get is a variety of use cases that really span the gamut. And it's like I said, this isn't meant to provide these really hardcore point-to-point integration pieces, but rather this loosely coupled path of events that different entities can subscribe to and different communities can subscribe to. So whether you're doing something inside of Salesforce, like trying to kick off a journey that needs to take some action further down in core, whether you're trying to build IoT systems, whether you're trying to just build your own apps that need to communicate with Salesforce, all of these are going to be, one, able to publish to the same event streams, and two, be able to subscribe to those same event streams so that you can really begin to build your applications at the speed that they need to be built at. So you're not going to have to lockstep your development so that I have to make sure I can't build the next thing until 3 teams downstream has finished theirs. I can build at my speed and just make sure that this event pipe is what's delivering the payloads I need. So with that, we're going to get into a demo. Hopefully, this is new to some people out there, and I'm switching roles here. So I didn't bring my developer event.
We should
It's a
get you
demo
a hat.
for me.
We're changing
That's how we
hats.
roll in
Exactly.
life.
Oh, I'm physically changing the hat. Exactly.
Jay's no longer here. It's now.
Exactly. But the demo scenario we're looking at today is around this idea of returns and RMAs with individual asset items. So say, for instance, I may be a company like Salesforce, and all of my user base has a telephone, or they have a laptop, or they have a desktop. And all of these are actually assets that I need to track. And more importantly, when one of them breaks, I need a method for my users to send them back in to find out what's happening and to get information kind of near real time. So I have a few different things that we're going to look at here in the setup. And the first thing we're looking at is the actual new platform events setup UI inside of the Salesforce Lightning setup. And first thing you'll notice is it looks almost identical to creating any other object, which is intentional, like I mentioned. One of the biggest differences we'll see is that instead of an __C suffix for custom object or an X suffix for external, we have a new one, __E for event.
All right.
So you can definitely.
I thought it'd be for exciting.
Well, it is exciting.
It is exciting.
It definitely
it can
is.
have
It
dual
is.
meaning.
Yeah.
The second thing I want to call out here, and this is for our ISV partners out there, we went through a lot of work to make sure that as we release this actually does support packaging, and I want this to be a feature that is completely available for all of our user community and our developer community. So we'll see that this specific application is packaged in an Acme Services bundle I have out there. Feel free to contact me afterwards, and we can get you the information on where you can download that yourself. But as I've gone through, I've created the definition of what my event looks like. Now, this is the first RMA request event. So when somebody breaks their phone, they need to send something in and take action against it. Normally, what that might be is you would create a custom object and then fire stuff off of that custom object, which works. I don't want to discount all the workarounds that people have had to do over the last 15 years. However, it's really the wrong tool for the job. And this is providing you the right tool. So it looks very similar, but we have these concepts of internal subscribers. Now, a subscriber is somebody that's listening on that stream of data and then doing something to that stream of data. Subscribers in context of the platform events are going to be triggers, very familiar concept. We also do have, in a beta program, the ability to subscribe through process builder flows for our no to low code developers. We want to make sure this is an inclusive product, but we're just going to go over the pure development aspect today. So every time one of these events is published into the system, or as a batch of them gets published, if you publish more than one, we'll go ahead and pick them up and run the trigger just like we would any other request object or any other standard object. What we're looking at here is as these events come in, I go ahead and I do a quick lookup. I try and find an asset that matches the serial number provided. If I find one, great, I'll continue on. If I don't find one, I'm performing logic here to create an asset. Probably a little bit of a simplistic demo here. You probably don't want customers to self-register their own phones, but for argument's sake, let's just say that's what's going to happen. And then later on, I'm going to go ahead and create a custom record to track the overall return status.
Okay.
This is a pretty standard thing that most of you are probably used to. Now that return request standard object, very simple here. It just has its own fields to track information about the return. It also has another trigger on itself. So every time that return status is updated, I fire off a second event. So this is kind of the demo flow is going to be RMA coming in as an event, custom object getting created. When that custom object gets edited, we go ahead and emit a new event that a subscriber can listen to kind of track the status of that. Where is my phone now? I've sent it to you. Where's my replacement? Here I'm doing some more custom logic against this event. I'm saying, hey, maybe if I've sent that phone in too many times, maybe it's a lemon, it's a dud. I'm not going to fix it and give you a new refurbed one. I'm just going to go ahead and give you a new one. So we have some logic here that says if you sent it in 3 times, we're just going to send it to scrap, give you a new one, and go to the next step. And then just like I would create a custom object, I define my new event here, my return status event that I'm going to send out to the customer, provide the information I want, and this is gathering information from multiple different objects. So an event is not tied to a single record,
Right.
like you'd expect. You can gather information about the state of Salesforce as a whole to trigger your workflow downstream. And then we have a new method called event_bus.publish. You are publishing an event to that event bus. And one thing I want to call out here is this is separate from the pure Apex transaction itself. So event should be considered a separate stream. We don't want to block against any publishing downstream, so it is done asynchronously.
Is it subject to any governing limits that?
It still has its own governor limits, just like
Okay.
you would, but they're run in their own set. So
Okay.
if I have a trigger set against my event, that has its own
separate.
trigger
Okay.
context. But what it does mean is if I was to roll back my Apex transaction because something went wrong downstream, I'm not going to be able to roll back that event.
Okay.
The event has happened, it's fired. So generally we recommend firing at the latest possible time of your Apex flow, reducing the chance that it's going to have a rollback, and also building the logic to understand that this is an event, and depending on conditions, I might have to manage that slightly differently. The event it creates is pretty straightforward. This is just a status event. I don't have any internal subscribers to this one, just external subscribers. So that's the setup, a little long, but hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And what we're going to show here is, I'll go ahead and refresh just to make sure my session's still running. We are good. And we'll look and we'll see we have one mobile device here, just called with a serial number of test1234. We're going to go ahead and open up my Heroku application. This could be launched anywhere, obviously. We have very open public APIs. We use Heroku because we love it internally. It makes it work very easily. But let's go, we're going to say I'm having a problem with my phone. It's going to be devprev1234 is my serial number on the back of my phone. The description, let's say the phone screen broke. And we'll just give it the first time it broke, and that'll be for the next step of the demo. Now, when I click Create Return Request, what's going to happen is it's going to create the event, publish the event into the system, where my trigger is listening for it. That's then going to create the return request itself, custom object, which will then fire a second event, which is being listened to on the right-hand side of my screen.
So when you're listening, you actually have subscribed.
I have a subscriber. So anytime a new event is published on there, it's going to show up on the right-hand side, assuming my demo works.
Demo gods are working.
So we'll go ahead and create one, and there we see a single event fired back out. Again, pretty simplistic demo here, but what I showed was an end-to-end flow of something happening outside, action taking place inside of Salesforce, and Salesforce emitting a second event externally. We see that it's gathering the information. We see a couple of interesting things about this return status that was sent back. First, I have a replay ID. Now, that replay ID is the unique identifier for that event. This is how we do the specific ordering and the making sure that everything is immutable and time ordered. So as I create a new event, it's going to get a new number, which will be ever increasing, and you're never going to see the same one. And I had something else happen there that fired in a couple other ones. I think my Heroku app is having fun with me, so I'm going to go ahead and restart my dynos just to make sure that it's only got one subscriber going on right now. The second thing we're going to see is that I have an RMA number that was created. In this case, RMA 0342. So this is that custom record that was created, and I'm reading off of that. Go ahead and refresh the screen. Hopefully clear up anything else. I believe I called it dev prev 1234. Issue description was phone screen broke, and we'll say broke 2. We'll send this one in. We should get that new event, and we'll see that it is RMA 343. Now, if I come back in and I look at my Asia High Tech, I think somebody might be playing with my demo while I'm demoing it, but we see that dev preview 1234. Inside the related to the asset, I see the return request. 343 is the one I just came in with, his phone screen broke 2. And now if I was to edit this, let's say we're looking at it, we're switching the status from new to in process. The return notes is looking at phone. So as I change this, I should see an event pop up on the right-hand side. Let's see if I can make it in time. There we go. So we're seeing a very quick turnaround on these, and that's the point, is we want it near real time. Now, as with a lot of things, I'm not going to give you a definite SLA on how fast you're going to receive these. What I can say is our current P95 against emitting the events is under 2 seconds. So we're looking at a very quick response time, but it could also depend on how much logic I have going on in the background. If I'm doing a lot of Apex that's creating a lot of records before that second event gets actually created, it's going to take a few seconds before it comes out. Now, as for the last piece of the demo, we're going to send in a couple more of these. The screen broke 3. We see a new return was created. And now when the screen broke, if it happens a 4th time, now I'm saying this is a dud. Maybe the user is dropping it too much. Maybe it has too much olive oil on their hands or something. But
I'll say I have a son like that.
I was about to say. Or maybe they have twins that play with them all the time. I'm just saying, not that I know, but I'm just saying that could
something like that could happen. But as we do that, now we see the 4th one that came in. There's actually a different return note, which is we sent it to scrap because you've already sent it in 3 times. So this is that idea of being able to take custom logic against events as they happen in the system.
And in that case, I could do a different pub on that. Like maybe it's a different system that I want to
absolutely. So
fulfill that new order.
It's all up to you as the developer. So where I submitted a new return status, I could also then create a new return event request, an RMA request, or I might have something else downstream. And what we have as a listener here is just a simple app that's listening if the customer is actually watching that, seeing statuses come through. But it could be a back-end system that is your order facility that's listening for these, and it says, oh, I see that you've sent this one to scrap. Now I need to actually go and generate a net new one to be sent out to the user. So because of that, because we're just publishing these events to a generic channel, or a channel that is decoupled from everything, it's up to the subscribers to decide what they want to do and when they want to do it. So this is where we really start loosely coupling these systems together. And like I said, allowing the systems to kind of upgrade at the time that they need. If I'm not ready to implement my order system yet, well, I don't have to hook it up as a subscriber. I can still go down and let another piece of the system hook up to the subscriber as it needs to.
It's true freedom.
True freedom. I like that. So that's the demo. We're going to switch back for one last slide here, I believe. And it's really kind of a where to next. Oh, then we have questions, even better. So maybe this will answer all the questions.
No, Jay.
So I've created a few bit.ly links here for people. Hopefully they make it a little easier than just searching. But we do have a full developer guide. Our wonderful doc writer, Katia, shout out to Katia, has done a great job with this guide. And I definitely recommend customers looking at that. We have not only descriptions of the things that I showed here, but also links to open source code that we've put out there to really allow subscribing to be very easy. We have a great blog post that was done by one of our internal sales engineers. It's a great kind of first look at platform events and start kicking around some of the ideas. We have a chatter group that is public that I try and monitor as often as I can. So if you have any kudos, I'll get that back to those really quick. Any complaints, those take a little longer.
That goes to a different channel.
A different channel, exactly. And then we have...
You forgot to subscribe to.
See,
just going to make that.
There we go. And we have 2 trailhead units that are coming. They should be online for DX. That's what I'm pushing for. DX for everybody. Quick shout out. That's going to be in the end of this month.
June
Yep.
20th.
28th and 29th.
And it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be awesome.
It will, and we should have
Awesome,
these
amazing.
2 trailhead units, one for the overview of platform events, and a second project, actually, how to set up an example that ties in very closely with Emily's Park Ranger.
I'm
not
getting that
just
badge.
not just what do you do when you buy your park, but how do you alert customers when bears are sighted?
There you go.
So that is platform events.
Well,
Take any
I'm
questions.
not going to try to totally monopolize the Q&A time because, this gets me super excited. You and I have had offline conversation about this. One of the things that I thought about, once again, that was a great conversation you and I had that I thought might be really useful for our viewers is, you touched a little bit on it. You can accomplish this in other ways. People have been accomplishing these things, like you said, for 15 years.
Yeah.
You can do a trigger with an app future, annotation. With that, though, you don't know the sequence, right?
Absolutely, and that's one of the key points. Is what I've seen a lot of customers do is they'll create a custom object to represent an event, even though it's not a true event. They'll create that object, which, hey, it works fine. It will get you through what you need to do. But then there's a lot of the heavy lifting that the developer has to do themselves.
Right.
They have to manage the storage against that custom object, so they have to reap it every so often, deleting the old stuff. And in specific situations, when you want to know what has happened in the specific order that it happened, that can be difficult to do when you're just looking at customer records, especially if you start doing things like updating those custom records. Because once you update, there's no way to capture really what was the state of that record before it updated. And that's where events really shine because they represent that point in time piece of state change. And if that state change is important to you, great. If it's not, that's fine too. There's nothing that says that you have to do something, just that you have the option of doing something.
Right. And the other part you talked on too is that I think it's really powerful. It's great if if there's only 2 players, but the real power comes in when you have multiple players,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, so if we kind of take that same concept where I have a custom object that I want to notify change on, I can do a number of things. I can send out a workflow outbound message. I could do an Apex call out, or I could pull against that object and constantly say, has anything changed? Has anything changed? Right. But if I'm doing that for each, let's say I have 5 listeners because I have an order system, I have a tracking system, I have a refill system.
Right.
Those are 3 different integrations that I have to set up. I have to do 3 different polling.
Here comes the spaghetti code.
This is where we get the spaghetti.
Right. Yeah.
And if we decouple that down into a single channel of events as they come in, now everybody can subscribe to that one channel with a very streamlined API. It's meant to just subscribe and publish. And when they need to upgrade or they need to change, they can do that kind of at their own speed, which is great. A lot of other things I didn't get to around how we manage versioning with events and how you can look at an event and see, okay, what did the state of this event look like a year ago or a week ago or a day ago? All of that is in the documentation and additionally helps you decouple these players.
Yeah, and I think it makes for leaner, right? Because when you start doing that spaghetti code, you get lots of connections going on where you can have this leaner with carbs versus proteins. Look at that. Somebody's a little hungry. All right. So we do have some people out here. Maggie says, yeah, glad to see a message bus coming to Salesforce Dev.
Thank you,
We're
Maggie.
on the bus, Maggie. We're on the bus. We do have a question here. Are platform events objects or managed package? Or is it object or managed package?
So the platform event itself is a new type of entity. I really like to steer away from the word object because I think object means a very specific thing with database, and I really want us to get into a different thing. This isn't an object. It's not a database record. It may be, but it may be something else. It may live on a Kafka queue. It may live in memory. It may live down in HBase. So it's not necessarily an object. It's an entity. Now, when you define that entity itself, just like you could define an S object, you can then package that as you want. So you can package the definition. I can package the triggers that go with it. I'll be able to package the process builder flows once we get there, along with all of the metadata. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the definition of the event itself, when I create that event definition, what it does is it creates the channel automatically. So when I publish that into a customer's org or into a partner's org, they're automatically going to get their own channel for that created as you create the event or as you create the object.
Great.
Entity, sorry.
Entity. See, we got you back
I
on
even
the
I
object.
even have a hard time switching out of
I
that
know.
mode.
I object.
Life with Ryan says, platform events are events stored for retrieval later for an audit trail, perhaps?
Sure, so, absolutely. We do have some storage. The way we look at that stream is a 24-hour history. This is configurable. However, I do not want this currently to be looked as a system of record. It's not meant to be a permanent store of everything that happened. We do have field audit history for that, audit history tracking, and we have event monitoring for a longer term storage. Now, we're also looking at the future. What does this look like in the future for those customers that do need a more longer term storage, potentially storing these down into a permanent store like HBase that can be retrieved later. But you get into weird situations. If I have an ever-increasing stream, what happens if I try and subscribe to the tip? You're going to get to a point where we can't deliver it fast enough because you have so many in there. So there's a little bit of balance that we're playing with. 24 hours is what we know we can support. My goal is to get that to 3 days so that we can, in the off chance that you have an outage on Friday that doesn't come back up until Monday, you can still retrieve everything. But we're at 24 hours for right now.
Okay, so that answered the next question was, how durable and long-living are platform events? And can we report on them?
You cannot report on them.
Cannot report.
Yeah, so this is another thing where they differ from S objects. Is that this isn't an entity, or it isn't an object that you report on.
Now more reason for it to call it entities.
Exactly.
Right.
You can't run SOCL queries against them. So I can't say, give me all events that match this record. Instead, what you do is you subscribe to that stream. There's many patterns for stream processing, what you do with a stream of data, and what you can do with it downstream from the actual subscription. And we're looking at ways to provide inbuilt stream processors on the platform as well. But for now, can't report on, no SOCL, you can't edit them. All you can do is subscribe to them, see what happens.
Okay, great. Don Robbins, shout out to him. He's super excited about this. Look at imagine the possibilities. We also have using TIBCO EMS as middleware, but have had to use SOAP to update SF, Salesforce. Can we use messaging with the new event functionality?
Absolutely. I mean, that's part of the attraction here. Now, the publish of events is done through the SOAP, REST, or bulk API. They are treated in that respect. It just depends on what happens downstream from there. So you can definitely fire in an event to represent a record update or a record change, and then take action on that asynchronously through a trigger.
Okay, great. It doesn't look like we have any other questions, any other last things we want to share. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Gratuitous plug.
Do it.
Trailhead DX.
Do it.
DX.
Look into that camera.
Hey,
You tell those viewers
If you
now.
want to learn how to build that similar properties component, guess what? I might be teaching a workshop at an event on June 28th and 29th here in San Francisco.
Yes, definitely get out there. This is going to be some awesomeness there. Lots of stuff on platform events.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Shameless plug for myself. I will be doing a platform events session. We'll also be talking about change data capture, which I think is a very interesting platform event add-on that people are going to be interested in. How do I synchronize Salesforce with external database? So look for change data capture, look for platform events, and also look for the next generation APIs that we're doing.
This is great. Emily?
And look for me at the trading post, because I'm sure I'll be there at some point, giving things away.
There you go.
It's fun.
And I'm also doing sessions on both Force record data as well as user interface API. So come check out more information about those API that we're working on.
So if you really want to build your dev cred and meet these experts in live person, make sure you get down to Trailhead DX. I'm sure I'll be down there too.
Yep.
Probably at the trading post with you, Emily.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
we'll be making it fun.
Definitely.
Once again, thank you guys for joining us. This session has been recorded and will be available for download at the developer.salesforce.com. Once again, we are super excited about these awesome features. Thank you guys for coming out and sharing with us and definitely imparting your knowledge with us. It's just, I could go like deep all day, but we don't have all day.
Yeah.
Actually, I have 3 minutes. So I won't take it all up. But thank you guys. Go out there to developer.salesforce.com. And also, you will also be getting a survey. Please complete the survey and let us know what you thought. Let us know about these awesome experts and all the great features coming out that you're excited about. And you can keep posting to #Salesforce Live. Join us next week for more webcasts for the Sales Cloud, App Cloud, Service Cloud webinars that will be coming up as well. So thank you, and we are off.